Welcome to my YouTube channel. Tonight's tutorial is how to take panoramic, or what we call Pano, images and how to edit them. I'm in new surroundings tonight because we've had some real storms, and for me to sit in the camper van would be a lot of noise, a lot of wind, because we've got high winds and heavy rain at the moment. So I've borrowed a room. So at the weekend, I wandered up our local Bullyburn, and in one of the scenes I explained how I took a 9-shot Pano image. So I'll link to the video here to explain how to take a portrait Pano, just in case you didn't see the last video. Okay, so I'm going to do a Pano. So what a Pano means is, if you want to get more of the scene in the photograph, you take a series of pictures. So you've probably seen these really long, wide, thin, narrow letterbox shaped photographs. That's probably a series of maybe 8 to 10 photos, all taken at different distances and then stitched together. So what I'm going to try and achieve, and I'll show you this in a tutorial of how to bring all the shots together in a Pano, but I'm going to take probably 9 shots of this scene and then bring all those 9 shots together and show you how to do a Pano in Lightroom and then how to finish off the edit in Photoshop. So first of all, you have to be in manual mode. You have to make sure that all your settings are the same. So what I'm going to do is, normally I set my white balance to auto white balance. So for this morning, for the purposes of this, I'm going to set my white balance to shade. And what that'll do is that'll warm up the look of the image. And then once the final image has come together, I can change the white balance in the image in its own within Lightroom or Photoshop. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to start low. I've focused into the middle of the image. So my white balance is the same for every photograph. My shutter speed's the same for every photograph. My f-stop is at f11, that's going to be the same for every photograph. And my ISO, I've set my ISO to 100. So every single image should have the same settings applied. So I'll take the first shot. Now what I'll do, using live view, I'll just edge the camera up, take my second shot, now I'll just increase the distance again, take my third shot. Now I'll turn the camera to the right, take my fourth shot, position the camera into the centre of the image again. Now it's okay to have overlap, because it's good to have overlap, because the algorithms that Lightroom and Photoshop use need the overlap from the individual pictures so it can start to join them together. I'll do the 6th photograph of the water. Again, my polarizer's in exactly the same position, so it should be consistent across each of the images for the water. So if I turn this to the right, take my 7th shot, and then centre the 8th shot, and then the 9th shot will be a sky shot higher up, and that's the 9th shot. And then what I'll do is I'll take a photograph of my hand, and that I've taken a photograph of my hand at the beginning of the sequence, I've taken a photograph of my hand at the end of the sequence, and I now know that when I go back home to process these images, that those 9 shots are my Pano shot. And I'll show you in the next tutorial how I bring all that together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move forward. So I hope that helped to explain how to take a portrait pano. I've added 2 images here to show you the 9 image sequence taken and then how those 9 images created the final image. The most used pano style that you may be familiar with is the landscape pano. Typically that's taken in a letterbox format. This is achieved by taking a number of pictures at the same level from left to right or vice versa. So I've added 2 images here of a landscape pano I took a couple of nights ago, just to give you an example. Now, let's move into Lightroom and Photoshop and I'll walk you through how I edited and created the 9-shot portrait pano image. Welcome to our 9 photo pano tutorial. So we've got our 9 images here, and what I'll do is I've made some minor tweaks and adjustments, very slight. I'll actually increase the contrast. I'll reduce the highlights a little bit more, just up the shadows a bit. I might actually just reduce the blacks, add in a bit, just slightly add in a bit texture. I've got clarity up at 7, I've adjusted the vibrance. I'm not going to touch sharpness at this stage, and I will select remove chromatic aberrations. So that's all I really need to do. So what I'll do is in my other tutorial for photo stacking, if I select shift and select the photos, select sync, check all, and then synchronize, that'll apply the settings across all the images. So if I double click and go into edit, photo merge, panorama, select panorama, that will then take the 9 images and the algorithm will work out how all the images fit together, because remember, when we took the 9 images we left a bit of overlap, and that really helps the algorithm speed up pulling all the pictures together to give you a single image. So this is what Lightroom produces. I could select fill edges and it would completely fill those edges, but the problem is it'll do it using content aware, and a lot of the times it's okay, but there are times where you'll get overlaps, you'll get distortion. So what I like to do is I use the boundary warp tool, and the boundary warp tool will actually expand out your image, and in that way it'll be a lot cleaner when it's finished. So when you do that and you click OK, Lightroom then starts to create a panorama. This will take a few seconds because it's a significantly large file. With those 9 raw files, that'll probably end up being somewhere about 50 or 60 meg. So it's quite a lot of information for it to pull together. And I've just noticed while it's processing, in here there's a black polythene bag that I've never noticed before sticking on that branch. So what we'll do is we'll take this completed image and we'll put it into Photoshop and we'll remove it there. So if I double click on the finished image and do edit in Photoshop, that will then take the image and soon the picture will load. It's just taking a wee time because it is quite a significant size. So if I zoom in on that image, there's the bag. So if I select the spot healing brush, and the trick with the spot healing brush sometimes is not to select everything, just do elements one bit at a time. and then when I do that, I'll be able to remove the bag from the side. There's a wee blurry bit there, and there we have it. So you wouldn't even know the bag's been there. So there's lots of other tweaks we could do. We could change the contrast, we could do our levels, we could do curves adjustment, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I really just wanted to show you how you could bring 9 photographs together as part of your Pano, and that gives you your overall 9, what we would call kind of portrait view of your combined images. So I'll do File, Export, Save as a JPEG, save the file, replace, and there we have it. That's how you do a 9-shot Pano image. So now I'll walk you through how a traditional letterbox style landscape Pano is created in Lightroom and Photoshop. In this tutorial, what I'll do is I'll just go over what we would call a traditional landscape Pano shot. So this is the one that you're probably normally used to seeing when it's in that letterbox style format. So this is a series of photos I took the other night, and there's 7 images here. So what I'll do is I'll follow the same principle as the first image, and what I'll do is I'll look and try and do some global edits. So if I just reduce the highlights a bit for the sky, I'll increase the shadows a bit for the foreground, maybe tweak up the exposure just a bit, add in some texture, a wee bit of clarity, and I'll up the vibrance. I'm not going to do too much because I'll show you how I can do the final edits in Photoshop. I'll remove chromatic aberration. So again, hold down Shift, select the last image, select Synchronize, check all, and then press Synchronize. And then all edits are going to be applied to those images. So if I now go Photo Merge, Panorama, now you'll see Lightroom bringing those 7 images together. And unlike the last tutorial where we had 9 images, this will be more of a landscape shot, and as you can see, that more traditional letterbox style. So what I'll do is I'll just pull the boundary wrap along until I've got rid of those white edges. See how far it goes. And there we go. So if I select Merge, that's now going to bring all those 7 images together, and we'll have our single landscape Pano view. So again, there's 2 less images, but again it's still quite a lot. It's a big size that Lightroom's got to process here. It's still creating the Pano, and once that Pano's finished, I'll walk you through how we could take quite a lot of distractions out of this image, out of it, when we're in Photoshop. So that's the final image. What we'll do is double click, edit in Photoshop, and again it is a big image for Photoshop, so it will take a wee minute to process because it's taking all the raw file information. So here we have it. So it's a bit bright, and also you'll notice all these young tree covers are in the way and it's really distracting. So what I can do is I can take them out. So if I take the spot healing brush, and if I just zoom in and I select my brush size, and if I just drag down, that spot healing brush will start to remove all these unwanted distractions. So far it's done not too bad a job. We'll give it a wee bit more work to do. And if I drag over, so if I start at the back and work my way forward, just so that the content aware tool doesn't pick up the other posts, and my brush size is small enough that it won't confuse the content aware tool with other posts. I'll take this one out, and as you can see, the content aware tool actually does quite a good job. So I'll take that one, I'll take that one out, and now what I'll do is I might increase my brush size. Let's see how this gets on. Yeah, that's fine. So I'll just increase my brush size a bit. And take out this post. And then the last post, I'm sure there's a song in there. And that last bit. So when I zoom out, there we have a fairly clean image. There's other distractions in there, so we can just take that one out. There's another one there, I'll take that out. Okay, so what I would typically do is look at the sky. So what I might do for quickness, just because this is a tutorial, is add in a new layer. Select black for my foreground. Select my gradient tool, drag my gradient tool down, and we'll just put some colour and contrast into the sky. Go into one of my blend modes. I'll probably go to soft light, and there you see soft light does a good job at darkening, and you can start to see the difference. So if I take the eye selection off, you can see the difference. It might be a wee bit too dark. So what I can do is add a layer mask, select my black as my foreground colour, select my brush tool, increase the brush size. The trees are a bit dark, so what I'll do is I'll just sweep along the horizon and clean up some of the darkness that's been applied by the filter. And there we have it. So if I do Control E or Command E, as I have in the Mac, and there we have a final image. So again, File, Export, Export as a JPEG, and Save. And then that's that file saved. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Not everyone is familiar with the different types of pano shots that can be created, especially as panos are normally associated with the letterbox format and style. But thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. And if you press the bell icon in the bottom of the screen, that will allow you to be notified when I publish any future videos. So thanks again, and look forward to catching you in the next video.